I'm Michael Knowles, here to tell you that Rules for Retrogrades, the book and the show, are out now, and you absolutely need to check it out before the thought police confiscate all of it and lock you away.
Good day, parish orphans and retrogrades. Timothy and Steph Gordon here. I guess Tim and Steph, or Timothy and Stephanie. We wanted to bring you today a little update on what you can do affirmatively, positively, and effectively about coronavirus, flu, as it affects you at home there, particularly as regards ongoing adult and child education. And I also wanted to give you a little shot in the arm as to why you shouldn't feel bad not supporting the USCCB in any form. I wanted to share with you some staggering facts, but mainly have Steph here, who's a seasoned vet at homeschooling. She helps me with the videos that I make for patrons, the 3 or 4 courses through modules that I do for high school and college kids. But also what we're going to open up, we're excited to announce, is we think a kind of homeschool supplement, and she's a pro. Say what's up, Steffi.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, we're hoping that we can offer some tips to help people to just kind of transition into the homeschooling world. When I first started 7 years ago, right?
Yeah,
it
6
was
or 7.
6 or 7. Yeah, at first I remember feeling really overwhelmed by everything, and so now that I've done it a few years, I'm hoping that we can offer some tips to kind of calm everybody down. And it's really very easy. It actually is. It works really well, for our particular schedule with Tim, speaking and, kind of going around the country. And, with our daughter, Abby, also having to go in the hospital, every now and again, we can just pick up our books and, do homeschool wherever we're at.
Well, it works well for everyone's schedule, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, because you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's one of the things we like most about it.
That's the secret, is you could do whatever the hell you want. That's the point. If you want to have your kids sleep in a little later and start homeschool at 9:45, like, knock yourself out. If you want to get up and do it early like a Puritan, because that's your shtick, then go ahead and do it. How long does it take you, Steffi, with Abby and Maggie to do a typical school day if they're behaving? That's
probably about 4 hours. And that is the great thing. That's a main point. Like, when I first started homeschooling, all the resources and the people that I had known at the time that were doing it were very more like a type A personality, where they were super organized. They had like everything. They had a whole classroom. It was like beautifully appointed.
Right.
They had like a really like intense schedule. And for me,
Nerds.
I was like, I don't know if this is good for me, because I'm not like that type A. I'm a lot more laid back. So it really was off-putting and a little bit intimidating at first, because I was like, do I fit in with this? Like, these are the the PTA moms that are out there doing this, who are like on their game, and I'm a little bit more, like laid back. A little bit.
A little more.
But the thing I want to say to you out there, if you're like me, is that it's perfect for us, because we can make our schedule how we want to make it, and we can do what we want to do during the day. And, sometimes, like I said, if we're in the hospital, Abby will be, going through tests or whatever, and we need to be down in Orange County for a couple of weeks for surgeries or what have you. And I can pack up all their homeschooling stuff, and we can do it, at Abby's bedside, or we can do it, in the hotel. It's just perfect. It's perfect for, our type of schedule. And then, of course, that we're all, many of you out there are on Corona quarantine.
Watch.
Yeah, Corona Watch 2020. I think you'll find that if you do it tailored to your family, and you don't worry about what other people are doing or how they do homeschool, as long as you're tailoring it to your family schedule and the type of things that you want to teach your kids, I think many of you will really find it rewarding and a good transition.
The main thing about other people is that they're idiots. So do things your way. Do things God's way. Yeah, so do it your way, and that's what it really enables. Steph has a stack of some material she just wants to show you, because I really think with the flu and the sort of falsely cooked up whatever sort of globalist plan that is unfurling before our eyes. I don't think they're going to let us go back to normalcy as quickly as they should. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I don't know. But we're going to do a couple shows later in the week talking to Steve Skojek and another friend of mine named Frank Norris. Smart Catholic men that have seen further than even myself on this. And so be that as it may, we don't know when this is going to end. But lots of people are being awakened from their dogmatic slumbers on education, and they're having to pull their kids out of the, dare I say, public schools or private Catholic schools, and they're uncomfortable with it. And many moms have approached Steph uncomfortable with the prospect of homeschooling their kids, and there's absolutely no need for it. It's the easiest thing. It's the best thing. You can absolutely, like a monarch, oversee what education your kids are getting. Look, we're such a laid-back household, not flaky, but laid-back, that we regularly, habitually even burn pizzas. We had a pizza in the oven, and the daughter was supposed to
literally like 3 seconds ago, burnt pizza.
And I smell it now.
Yeah.
But so the substance of today's quick little show will be, I do want to get to some staggering facts and figures about the corrupt, blood-stained money going from the federal government to the USCCB, just as a way of justifying your abnegation in your relationship with the USCCB. You know, every Catholic should move to homeschooling, I say. It's a prudential judgment call, so I'm not saying it's wrong not to. But you don't want to keep subsidizing the dioceses if they're bad. Not every, but any Catholic with a questionable diocese, which is many, should consider homeschooling. And we want to be the ones to help you do it.
And to dispel many fears too. You know, there's a lot of fears, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm not educated enough to do this." Like I myself, you know, I don't really have much college experience at all. We are a team, you know. So there are some questions that we'll get to later from patrons and on Twitter, you know, that I'll read off and answer as well in relation to how do you do that. You know, if you know one of you is overeducated or not at all. So we'll get to some of that as well.
Yeah, I see you're wearing your Rules for Retrogrades shirt, Steph. I have the mug. You have the mug. There's some Baileys in that coffee.
I know. I noticed that. I was drinking it, and I was like, that has a little bit of a kick to it.
So Rules for Retrogrades will be out tomorrow. Everyone, please go ahead and order this book, and order it from Tan, because Amazon, our new lords and masters, who will sometime this week or next week be taking over the universe, the only company up and running. Oh yeah, there it is. They have a backlog of order on everything aside from food and like butt supplies. Yeah, toilet paper.
Kid butt supplies, adult butt supplies. Butt supplies are like #1 ship on Amazon right now. Books, nah. Yeah,
books are getting jettisoned as a priority. So, with regard to, I feel extra salesman-y this show. There's no need for that. It's just, hey, we're excited even in the midst of the Corona Wu outbreak, Wu-Tang, Wu flu. Pandemic or whatever you want to call it. Everyone order themselves a copy of this thing. Patrons, of course, you're going to get a signed copy in the mail if you signed up anytime recently, whatever our categorical benefits structure is. But what we want, I mean, the main thing is, please do order this from Tan so you'll get your book right away. Those of you who were on the launch squad, we haven't been addressing you much lately, but please remember, bright and early tomorrow, this show is going to premiere Thursday afternoon. So please remember, bright and early tomorrow, to hit up the unnamed HTML and leave your review, whatever it is.
Honest reviews.
Yeah, honest reviews.
Good. We ask for honesty.
Yeah, nothing but honesty. Win, lose, or draw. Leave those tomorrow early on, because that's really the point of being on the launch squad. And we appreciate all your efforts and all of your kind remarks about Rules 1 to 10. So did you want to get to just a little layout, Stevie, of how easy it is to organize, be thrifty,
Sure.
cheap?
Yeah. Let me just first and foremost say that we do not break the bank for our homeschooling supplies. So I'm just going to go through some real quick tips right now that I do to kind of keep things streamlined and cost effective for large homeschooling families. Let's face it, we have 6 kids. Like, I do not want to buy a curriculum every single year, because a lot of these books that we buy, you can write in them. They have like worksheets and stuff. So for what we do is we bought a very cheap printer. And I'll give you an example. For the curriculum, we use Seton Press. And so I don't know if you can see that, but this is the religion book for 3rd grade. And it does not come like this. This is one of my tips here. I don't know if it's adjusting. There we go. It comes just in a regular book format. But since we reuse our books, what I do at the beginning of every year, we buy the full curriculum and for the grade. And I take an X-Acto knife and I cut out the spine. And so all the pages, there's the cover, all the pages are inside here. I don't know if you can see, they're beautiful. They have, really beautiful artworks. And this is my first year using this curriculum. And we're not on their payroll at all. This is just what I actually really like. They have everything. They had science, religion, Latin, math books, everything. It's really easy because for me, what I wanted an all-encompassing curriculum. I didn't want to buy little things here and there and like have to piecemeal things. And Seton was really good at that. I could buy all their books. They even have an art lesson, really cute stuff. But anyway, I take out the pages, I put them in these binders, and what we do is I photocopy them when Maggie has a lesson. Maggie's our 3rd grader. And we can save these for our kids who are coming into 3rd grade next year. We're not having to buy these books every year. And I put them in her binder here. And each lesson has those pages. And when she's done with that week, I just keep a week full of lessons for math and her reading and her religion and Latin. And when she's done, I either just rip out those pages, or sometimes I actually use these pages and she just writes her work in a notebook, and I just put them back in the binder, and then we have our whole set of books for the kids next time. So we're not going through books. These books, they're pretty inexpensive, but still, I don't want to buy these books every year. So we have 3rd grade curriculum for all of our kids. So
all things are relative. Yeah, compared to other textbooks, they're sort of inexpensive, but if you were repurchasing them, homeschooling families, for all of your many kids, then it would quickly add up and spiral out of control.
Yeah.
Steph thought of this before doing any years of inefficiency where she was repeating purchasing a book. So it was smart to do right from the outset.
Yeah, because I think the whole curriculum for 3rd grade, and don't quote me on this, but I think roughly, because I know you're probably wondering how it costs, I think it was about $200, $300 for all the books, and I think that was about 8 or 9 books for subjects. And I did this for all of them. So all of our 3rd grades are in these binders, and we reuse these pages.
Yeah.
The binders are really good, too, when you have their lessons in them for the week, because it paces them. And one of the questions I got from a couple of people, I was trying to give a shout out to some of them. Elizabeth, one of our patrons, Brianna, one of our patrons, they were asking, how do you juggle certain grades? Like we have a special needs kid, we have, a 3rd grader, we have kindergartner. Really what's great about the binder as well is that you want to teach your kids to just self-pace and do work on their own. And again, this curriculum is very good for that because it's a lot of reading and worksheets and things like that. So really, self-work is very good. Some parents think they have to hover over their kids the whole time they're in homeschool. No. You want to teach your kid to be able to sit there at the desk and do some work on your own so you can do other things, whether it be chores or work with one of your other kids.
Yeah. I think even you, if I recall, when you started this, you felt like guilty or something, or false guilt about having the kids doing drilling. And learning by rote is central to classical education. And we do a kind of mixture of classical education and whatever you call, I guess Tim and Steph styled education of the kids, but it's top quality education. I've taught people you have 10 years of teaching experience in college and high school classrooms. And Steph now has, whatever it is, 6 or 7 as a homeschooler teacher. And let me tell you, drilling is important. So it's just not time consuming. Now that the school I teach at has gone to digital online education, so I'm sitting in front of the camera that much longer every day. It's funny because it's more delineated, it's more demarcated, the period between me lecturing I'm a great lecturer. It's my favorite style of education is, me speak, you take notes. And situation B, some sort of work in class. I do more lecturing than I think every other high school teacher I've ever met. And yet I didn't realize until we moved this week to online education how distinct the two modes are. In other words, like, when the students are working on their work, we say, okay, we're going to end the online session. We'll check back in now. And it's really important to keep having them do that for every 30 minutes or 40 minutes I lecture, to have them working on something, whether it's essay writing or, stupid or busier work, for about 30 or 40 minutes. Something like that. You don't have to feel guilty. Moms out there that move to a homeschooling modality, you could go do bills or household chores or whatever you need to get to, or drink Baileys in your coffee in the morning quietly, and not even be, you need to leave the kid there.
They have to learn independence, somehow. During homeschool, you don't have to hover over them. Our main thing really is like, you make homeschool work for your family. Your kids are going to feel loved and cared for. And that's really like one of the main things too, is like mom's there, spending her time with her children throughout the day, helping to instruct them. And again, like, I'm not overly educated over here. Like, there are times where I have to go and I have to ask Tim, like, hey, I need your help, with math. And that was one of our other questions, I think, from one of our other patrons, how to involve dad. Mama Bex asked that. How do you involve the father in the homeschool? I do it all the time. I'll do my homeschool in the morning. Tim gets home from work, and I'll say, "Hey, can you please sit down with Maggie? For 20 minutes and just run through multiplication with her. To help her with certain questions that she had with math. Math is not my strong suit. He steps in and he helps me with that." And again, since you're homeschooling, you have time throughout the day. It's not like a regular public school system where you're like, hey, this time to this time is the only time you have school. We'll take breaks. Sometimes, we want to go to mass, with Tim at his school. And so we'll stop and we'll go and we'll come back. And after dinner, we'll pick back up again.
I don't like the fruity word organic, but it is very organic, notwithstanding its fruitiness. You really can. I mean, I can do kind of... what do they call it? The educators, so to speak, the public school Common Core people that say educator instead of teacher.
Educators.
They say like, I forget what it is. The synthesis portion where you're taking what you know and applying it. That can be done over dinner. I do it a lot of times over dinner, or even part of the learning by rote, the quizzing part where it's like, hey, what do you attend? Or what we were going over yesterday in another room of the house. What are the Beatitudes? Tell me the first part and the second part of each one. It was really only the first part that Maggie was getting. It's a home economy. I mean, this is what literally the subtext of Aristotle's Politics was, the home economy. You see how lovely and, dare I say, organically and smoothly the home economy operates when the mom's here. Now it's kind of neat because I'm here around teaching my high school classes. The girls wander in and look at that. Steph's teaching our girls in the other room with the homeschool classes. And everyone's just around. We're not tired. We're not running around schlepping the kids all over town in, the car for practice, orchestra practice, school. Everyone's here in the home economy, and it's lovely and natural. And you can double back around. You can circle back around to weak lessons in the day. The quick lessons like spelling or a quick math lesson are just gone, and you can cut to what you need to cut to in a way that can't be done whether your kids are being publicly educated or privately educated at Catholic school.
And I'll make a note too, because I get this question a lot, like, how much time do you spend a day on homeschool? It depends. Sometimes it's very, very quick, because think about it. In public school, teachers have a whole class full of kids that they have to instruct and take questions from. When you have a little tiny group in your house, well, some of these trad families maybe have 10 or 12, so they have a regular sized classroom. But even then, it's smaller than the public school system. You're going to be going through school much faster. Some days maybe we'll finish up in 2 hours. Maybe it'll take 4 hours one day. It really depends. It's just setting your own schedule and following it and getting through your subjects. And again, this curriculum that I have is really great because they have everything broken up into books, and they have the worksheets, and it's kind of like self-encapsulated. And also, I'll make a quick note, they have it from pre-K to 12. So the curriculums are from pre-K to 12, and I'm really happy with the book so far myself. I've been, pleasantly surprised, especially by the religion stuff. They have some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, again, the thing I always come back to is variation is the mark of nature. Natural variation is natural. Like, so what you just said about some days class is over in 2 hours, other days when Maggie's more difficult or whatever, it goes 4. You should see that the mark of doing something well rather than doing something merely to completion is that there's going to be a wide variation in chronology and time sequencing. And what's conspicuous about the Common Core model being used by public schools, and really, if we're being honest, Catholic schools as well, is, okay, this class period's over, the bell rang, you stop whatever you're doing, and now you go and you spend a synthetically preordained, arrived at amount of time on the next subject, whether or not you need that much time. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same amount every day. That would be incredibly mathematically coincidental if you had perfectly allotted the amount of time for each subject and it was perfectly equal subject to subject every day. It's absurd. And when you start homeschooling, you start seeing how deficient non-homeschool education really is. And again, we don't go around getting involved in the trends. We're traditional minded people. We don't really call ourselves trads. That's the retrograde way, and I understand that a lot of people still who are good people don't homeschool, but it's the best, and the proof of it is the natural variations in your day. And if you have an appointment or a set of appointments as a mom that day, you could say, okay, let's just do 20 minutes of math and 20 minutes of English, and we'll make up, or not, tomorrow.
Or on the weekends.
It's very organic.
Or in the evening times.
Right,
we have a really hectic schedule, like Tim and I, between his podcasting and his full-time job, and then of course our daughter's medical issues. And we put this in practice. We have to do school sometimes weird, odd times during the day, or sometimes during the summer because Abby was having a procedure or whatever, or, sometimes on the weekend. You can do it exactly how you want to do it. That's the great thing about it. And don't let anybody else, anybody else's schedule, intimidate you or make you feel like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job because I'm not doing it like super structured like this other mom is doing. It's like, no, just do it how you're going to do it. And as long as your kids are getting like the structured lessons throughout the week, you'll be fine. So a few quick tips before we move on. Ray from Twitter, actually, I love her account, but she gave a really good resource for education materials for online resources. And I believe the site is geezgwen.com. It's GEEZGWEN.com. Also, one of the other questions that we had gotten from a few patrons and some Twitter followers was how to do several grades at once. And one of the things I'd like to do with my real little kids, abcmouse.com has kind of like some really cool little videos and stuff that they can do, just kind of busy work while the big kids are doing some of the more intensive lessons like math and Latin and things of that sort. It just kind of keeps them quiet, keeps them engaged, and it keeps them doing something on the side, just for the time where I really have to focus on some of the more complicated subjects.
Yeah, it kind of brings us back to what we were saying about there's a holism, right, to the entire project of homeschooling. There's a holisticness to it where, dare I say, organic. You really feel, this is probably how you have to feel. I'm not usually home when you're doing homeschool unless I'm sick that day or coronavirus is tearing the world apart. It has to feel, it always looks this way to me. It has to feel good, like you're firing on all 4 cylinders.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That was a surprise that I didn't know with homeschool. I knew that people would always say oh, you feel so much closer to your kids when you're with them, throughout the day. But there really is a great bonding moment between honestly, when I'm teaching them some things, I'm learning as well. Some of the things that I'm learning in the catechism that we're going through, I'm actually learning with them. I'm memorizing prayers with them. I'm doing all these things with my kids. And, there's some real value in that. And I think a lot of people, they might intellectually know that, but when you're sitting there doing that day in and day out, you're actually growing together with your kids quite a bit and learning with them.
Yeah, you always say you're learning a lot of the stuff.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so do you have the quick tips you want to run through? Or...
That was what I just did earlier with the binders. Again, the binders are really great to like make sure you're, saving your books and you're not having to buy curriculum after curriculum, each year. Since we've done homeschooling for 6 or 7 years now, since I've done this from the very beginning, I'm actually starting to reuse some of my curriculums for the littler kids. Works really well. Buy yourself a really cheap printer. You don't have to go all out and get one of those laser ink printers. We just have a $40 printer. And when I have to, make copies of something, if it's a write-in assignment on some of these curriculums, I can make a quick copy, so I'm not destroying my books. And then I just keep a little bookshelf inside the classroom or wherever, where I just keep all of our curriculums tucked away. And then the binders are great because you can take them as you go. I mean, who wants to carry, 13 of these around all day? That's impossible. So I just, again, take the pages that I'm doing that week out, put it in like a little subject binder here, that we have, like each section has like a history, a math or whatever. We just put the pages in there. When they get through those pages, we need to replenish the pages. It's super easy. Again, it really helps with, you want your kids to do you want them to be able to sit there and do their own lessons so that you can do other things. Chores, work with other kids. Our daughter Abby's special needs, so she doesn't do reading or any of that sort of thing. Like she does a lot of like visual, like video type lessons, music lessons and things of that nature. So I can work with her while Maggie's doing her penmanship and her binder. Works really, really well for us.
Yeah. And also, it should be noted that we are working, Steph is the main one who helps me to do this. We're working to get up the completed version of the first 2 courses that I have. I mean, I'm not bragging, but these are high quality courses taken from my notes from the Greg. The leading Thomist in the world, Kevin Flannery, is really the ultimate headwaters of the Aristotle Nicomachean Ethics course. It's super good. I refined the notes over the course of the years because I use them in the classroom. The church history lecture, which is up now, everyone's swearing by. It's really, really succinct and good. We're going to add a Catholic social teaching course, which I think avoids the pitfalls of Catholic social teaching sounding like socialism really adeptly. That should be up within the month. And then a philosophy of man course, which I personally put together like the curriculum. I'm really proud of it. It's more Aristotle de Anima. It's Plato, the Republic, Boethius, Augustine, St. Thomas, the Regensburg Address by Benedict XVI. I tell you to go watch some movies. I have lectures on good, movies, contemporary films that flesh out the principles. It's just a fun course to take, and people are learning from it. I'm going to add more and more courses, and I'm going to make them more and more accessible for everyone, all patrons, at the lowest level of being a patron, so that really we're kind of transitioning over to a how to do school, kindergarten through like college. These are really college courses that I'm offering, the first 4. I brought them down.
High school too.
Yeah, I brought them down to high school because the place where I work is really cool and lets me do that. And they give me sort of carte blanche.
You
to
actually
do
use these courses in your high school lessons.
I use them in high school lessons, but they're really college courses. So the first smart high school kids, which are homeschooled high school kids. And then you're kind of covering K through 8. So we're building up more an arsenal for people that are leery about going over to a homeschool model, but really should.
And how those courses are, like the courses that Tim's talking about, how we have them structured is that it's in slideshow format, and what it is, I narrate the slide, and then if further, explanation is necessary or a lecture or whatever, then Tim does his own little slide right afterwards where he kind of, expounds and says a little bit more about the actual topic. That's how we've structured all of them so far. Right now we just have, I think the church history is done, and we're going to be working on the Nicomachean Ethics, and then the other one is
Catholic social teaching.
Catholic social teaching. And he's doing this for his philosophy man. He does these for his high school kids, so they're good for that age group. There's a book. Do we have that? For the church history class, there's it's a $5 textbook on Amazon that we've structured that course, church history course around. Oh, here it is.
We already showed it.
Did we show it? Oh, okay. Well, here it is again if we haven't.
It looks like one of those kind of boomery Vatican II books. So I'm just holding
it looks
it
kind of weird, like the weird stained glass, like grapes and leaves and like things like that we're always making fun of. But it's like a good book. For how we structured that church history class, you don't actually need the book, but if you want to read along with it, it's good to have. And I think, again, it's $5 on Amazon.
That enables it to be used more like a course. The people that are like, I don't want a book, I don't want to read chapter by chapter. I go through the first 9 chapters, and it's a complete course, and you can do it over the course of a semester with your kid and use what we're offering as more than supplementary materials for homeschooling. You could use it as your religion course. Or, people that just want to rush through 3-4 hour lectures and kind of, hey, I'm a high functioning, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I just want to learn church history in 12 hours. You could do that as well. And if you could process loads of information fast, sometimes I that's kind of how I want my information to be processed. Either way, like, cool, it works either way. But the point is, we're kind of rolling this all into one because it's going to be a kindergarten through college home workshop that we're slowly putting together. I mean, I have a full-time job, but the more we see the need for this, coronavirus has just accelerated everything. We really are getting more and more incentivized and motivated to put it all the way together. As of right now, the government has really preschool through grad school dominion over the minds of the young, and really the ultimate retrograde plan of attack is coming out tomorrow is to retake education. But that's long term. Short term, there are other things we need to tend to. But long term, the only way to retake the culture for Christendom is for all Catholics to really pull out of the schools and to be doing this. That's why we're making a big push. That's why. And
we want to help you too. So please, if you have any questions, you can always reach us on Twitter, on DM. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can and to, get back to you as soon as I can do so. But if you have any questions or your little concerns or whatever you have, just reach out to us and we're happy to help you along.
Unless we're not. Maybe you catch us when we're in a bad mood and we're just like, we're not going to help these people. But usually we're in good moods. We're generally good mood people. No, I mean, okay, so here's why you shouldn't feel bad about... There are still some good dioceses, but most dioceses aren't. Here is why. For the next few minutes, I'm going to run through some facts and figures as to why you absolutely should not feel bad removing schooling support monies of the USCCB or any of their subsidiaries, or any other really monies that you would typically direct to the USCCB or one of their subsidiaries, because it's blood money. It's dirty, and this is really going to be the only way that the bishops learn, that the faithful, the sensus fidelium, us, we're not going to stand by and take it anymore. We're sick and tired, and we're not going to take it anymore. We talk a lot like this. The only way is to vote with our pocketbooks, and ultimately to vote by pulling our kids out of the schools, unless you're in a really good diocese, and there are a few. I'm not going to name which ones I think there are. I'm just going to leave myself that out. There are some good ones. Maybe you live in one of them. You probably don't. So I'm talking to most people without being too specific. Weaponized ambiguity. See how I did that? But the federal funding and the buying off of the bishops by the federal government over the last 2 decades, beginning really in the middle 20th century, but especially the last 2 decades, is staggering. And your jaws will hit the floor when you hear some of these statistics I'm about to read, or they should. And if they don't, if you aren't surprised by this and you've still been subsidizing the USCCB or its subsidiaries, then shame on you. Nevertheless, there's a great EWTN documentary called A Wolf in Sheep's Clothes, showing the direct, intimate, vile entanglement between Saul Alinsky and the Midwestern Church, Indiana, Illinois, with president of Notre Dame, Jack Egan, around the middle part of last century. Saul Alinsky had the Midwestern Church tied around his little finger, and he taught it. He taught the bishops, the left-leaning radicals there, how to community organize and how to really indoctrinate. It's really, really pathetic. You should watch this. Wolf in Sheep's Clothes. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, EWTN is always, kind of somewhere between a blue pill and a red pill. This is a very red-pilled documentary and worthy of your time. It's really interesting, too, showing how the socialism crept into the church in the middle 20th century. Socialism, look, has even crept largely into the so-called trad circles, right? We have tradinistas. 2 out of 3 trads I run into have been tainted at some level by socialism. So the socialists are the ultimate infiltrators, and Saul Alinsky was kind of the American dawn of the socialist infiltrators. Okay, just listen to this real quick. I was going to do a whole separate show on this. Some Catholic friends of mine, who are also researchers of mine, Cooper and Chadwick, they did some mutual research help for another friend of mine, Frank, and he said, hey, feel free to put this into a show. It's worth the time of the people.
You actually did do a show on this yesterday, and the audio dropped. And so, it's heartbreaking. Anyway.
I did do a whole separate show on it to find that I only had a video, not audio. This is really hard work. It's hard work. You're the producer.
I'm in the background trying to fix all the videos and add the audio and all these things and the graphics and what have you. And so Tim shot this video for a half hour. We get it up and there's no audio on it. Oh no. So we're doing a little mashup today.
Need some more Baileys in this coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Catholic bishops, the long and the short of it is, have been caught in the conflict of interest over immigration. Why do you hear immigration, 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 plus a little ecology at every sermon, every boomer mass you go to? Why don't you hear about contraception ever? Why do you not hear about divorce ever? It's influencing half the people in the pews. Why you hear some about abortion, though even abortion.
That's a safe one. Everyone's, against abortion. It's not a controversial one, really.
The LMNOP agenda is not really pro-abortion or anti-abortion. So every once in a while they'll pepper it into a sermon once or twice a year. Don't use abortion, and we're hugely pro-life, but don't use abortion as the litmus test for whether or not a bishop or a diocese is good or bad, because it's a kind of safe way for them to show their bona fides, and it seems to work with conservative Catholics. My bishop did do the occasional abortion talk. Well, they're not really pro-abortion. They're pro all the other bad stuff, and I'll show how. Immigration is a code word for globalism, right? They've been infiltrated by the federal government, particularly the globalist element of the federal government. The USCCB received more than $91 million for resettlement programs for Syrian refugees alone. 91 million. That's Syria. That's a small country. It's probably bigger than their GDP in Syria. No joke. That's ridiculous. These numbers are staggering. Catholic Charities and Catholic Relief Services, CRS, completely corrupt, received $202 million, Catholic Charities, and respectively $426 million, nearly $427, respectively in 2016. I think this was under Obama. You heard me right. That's 9 significant digits. That's 9 figures. The Obama years added to the largesse, from 08 to 16. There was a $120 million increase in Catholic Relief Services funding during Obama's first year in office. And $91 million was paid directly to the USCCB, not even one of its subsidiaries, not even a kind of soft money laundering operation of having the subsidiaries channel the funds. Direct 91 mil. From 2008 to 2020, the USCCB has received $839.3 million from the federal government. What you need to understand is that's not normal, right? It's not like the German, nor do we want it, but we don't currently have, nor do we want, the German church-state configuration, right? Where they get more money depending on how many parishioners they have in the state church, and it's weird. It's bad. It doesn't work. It corrupted the German church even more than it already was corrupted. And we don't want it here. But don't think that these, 8 or 9 figures of payouts, corrupt blood money payouts are anything innocuous. It's strictly corrupt because we don't have anything even a little bit innocuous like the German system. And I'm not condoning it either. But there's no good reason for $839.3 million from the federal government to be going to the USCCB. From the same period of 12 years, 08 to 2020, Catholic Relief Services, another CRS, the subsidiary of USCCB, received $3.9 billion from the federal government. There's no way to like inflect your voice with each of these new figures, which become more and more staggering. I'm just going to read them and quit trying to have my voice reflect my
disgust, disdain,
my
horror.
Inverse enthusiasm. Yeah. So I'm done with that. I'm not an actor anyway. It's staggering stuff. My disgust, my disdain, and my horror notwithstanding. From the same period of years, 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Chicago received $47.4 million from the Fed. 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Miami received $57.1 million from the Fed. What is the justification for this? That is a large, large sum. 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Denver, not even a particularly large city, received $24.5 million from the Fed. 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Syracuse, upstate New York, very small city, received $31.6 million. Remember all the upstate New York funniness that in the diocese there? I think it's Buffalo, that Church Militant's been covering the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Your eyebrows and your hackles should be raised. From 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Joliet, very small, received $104.6 million from the Fed. What is this, people? How do you justify these funds? How do you begin to? 2008 to 2020, Catholic Charities of the Diocese of San Diego, can you say Bishop McElroy, the dawn of the corrupt U.S. prelates, has received $82.9 million from the federal government. Now, notwithstanding what I said about abortion, sort of the safe conservative issue for them to speak on. No, I didn't mean
That's the one they will talk on.
They will.
Eventually, sometimes.
But it is. But notwithstanding that, it also, the USCCB also donates on the other, one hand washes the other. With the other hand, they will donate to pro-abortion groups. And this research was compiled in November of 2018. They gave $305,000 to CCHD, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, and they took that money and gave it to Planned Parenthood. Retired bishops recently joined pro-Planned Parenthood group and call for Catholic funding of pro-abort orgs. I think this was a LifeSite article. Mm-hmm. U.S. bishops sack faithful priest, yet continue to employ Planned Parenthood supporting groups. These are LifeSite articles over the last 2 years. The Catholic Campaign for Human Development, CCHD, watch out, they're always corrupt. They're always bad news. They, in the, I'm not going to say what diocese that is. In some dioceses, they have donated to the Merced Organizing Project, who works with Planned Parenthood. They're, notwithstanding the one or two, perfunctory sermons you get a year about how Planned Parenthood actually is wicked. The New Mexico Asaquia Association is a Planned Parenthood subsidiary, and they received $35,000 in 0708 from CCHD. CCHD appears on the grantee list. In 0809, they received $45K. In 0910, they received $45K again. In 1011, $50,000. The next year, $40,000. The next 2 years later, they received $45 again. 2 years after that, they received $45,000 again. A year after that, they received $50,000. The Coalition on Homelessness, done in the name of migrant workers, Catholic social teaching, ecology, all these nonsense buzzwords. The Coalition on Homelessness shows outward support of Planned Parenthood. They've received $240K in 4 grants from the Catholic Church since 2010. So this is what they're doing with all that corrupt blood money they're getting from the globalist factions within the the federal government of the United States. They're giving it right back to the wicked organizations. This is probably no small part of the reason why they're getting this money from the Fed in the first place. It's just a way of legally laundering the funds. Catholic Relief Services, Steph was pointing them out earlier, the main humanitarian agency of the USCCB. Well, Lepanto Institute did an in-depth analysis on CRS. $5.3 million were given to CARE, a humanitarian agency that supports abortion and helps to administer it. In 2011, CRS was a member of Medicam, a group that procures abortions in Cambodia, gave $3,000 a year for their membership. The American Life League have friends there. They expose CRS on who they fund, $64 million to pro-abort groups. So all of this, and pro-contraception groups as well, is a big part of the globalist agenda, is to get these third world countries aborting and contracepting to the tune of a first world country. And this is a huge push by Jeffrey Sachs, Ban Ki-moon, George Soros. And that seems to be why they're hanging out so much in the Vatican. There is a dirty, dirty alliance, or as Hillary Clinton's campaign called it in the WikiLeaks dumps emails of 2016 in early November, a Catholic spring for the globalists and the wicked, satanic, socialists around the world who see President Trump, America, and the Catholic Church as the sole starch block to total world domination. There's tons more stats here. You can't really do much with the stats at a certain point. I have statistics out the wazoo showing what parts per 64 million these is constituted. This money, the 64 million, I could show you exactly how it's divided. It's staggering stuff. And there's no way to look at the USCCB and say they're doing good work, they're doing Catholic work, we should continue to support them. There's no way to do that. And the product from 90, I'm being charitable, 90% of Catholic schools is deficient and not as good as you can get your kids reasonably easy, and we're going to help you to do it with homeschooling. We should all move, all traditionalists, all retrogrades, all faithful Novus Ordo Catholics, move your kids to homeschooling. It's really important. See the silver lining in the cloud. Coronavirus can just be the activation energy supplier to do so. Yeah.
We even got another question from Elizabeth, one of our patrons, and she said, how do you juggle homeschool and working? Like if you're still working, like some of you maybe, are still blessed to have your jobs out there, and hopefully that's most of you. Again, homeschool around your schedule. I do this multiple times throughout the day. Sometimes I get it all done in the morning. Sometimes I have to break it up throughout the day. Sometimes I have to do a double lesson on Saturday. Again, this is all about your schedule. It works great.
Yeah, and also, consider what coronavirus has done for American Catholics, and probably European Catholics as well, but I can't speak so much to them. It's not that hard to reconfigure large swaths of your life suddenly if it's a life or death matter. And, the goal is always, according to all the social encyclicals, beginning with Rerum Novarum, the goal is always to be a one-income household, and it's really the expectation. So if there's any way to do it, homeschooling works really nicely, and you can figure it out on a two-income schedule. But it's going to be much easier, and you're going to get all of the best benefits, all of the apotheoses of the niceties from homeschooling. If you're doing it, in a relaxed way with one income household. It's easiest that way. You can work it out other ways. But this is a time, people, to reflect on our lives as a whole and to reconfigure what we need to. And to buy Rules for Retrogrades, which comes out tomorrow. Please buy it. Please buy it directly from Tan. Did you have anything else to say?
No, that's it. That's just about it.
All right. Hey, so please do subscribe to us on YouTube. We've been doing a lot of solo videos. Dave and I, we've been working on some different things. We're going to come back together with a video tomorrow with Steve Skojek and me and Dave. And we're going to get a little specific on you on coronavirus. But please buy the book. Please support us on Patreon. homeschool your kids. Don't support LeBron James. Just be a good overall person by doing the above 5 things. Have a good day.